Hey friends, my name is Will. I am an engineer at Google, a coach at Major League Hacking, and I am psyched to spend some time talking about time. We're going to dive into a bunch of different strategies for managing time. We're going to look at short-term planning, long-term planning, scheduling algorithms, multitasking, and a lot of other things. So stick around. We're going to hang out for a second to give folks a chance to tune in. But then we are going to get into it. As usual, I don't know how to live stream, so please forgive any of me forgetting to share my screen. That's going to be the main thing. Hey, Adam. It's good to not see you. It's good to be in your presence. I'm not in your presence. It's good to see your chat. I think we're going to wait just a few minutes to get things going. In the meantime, I'm going to reorganize my desktop. So if I share my screen, it's not going to be messy. The kitchen is good. The kitchen is good. Actually, so my big update from the kitchen is that I have recently been brewing my own kombucha. If you are not familiar, kombucha is like this kind of fermented probiotic tea. And a lot of people think it's nasty. And those people are not wrong. It's kind of gross in a lot of ways, but it makes your gut really happy. And so I have been making it, and it has been successful. It's like pomegranate flavored, kind of spicy tea, and it's great. So the kitchen is doing well. The kitchen is doing real well. So this is a live stream about time management and productivity. And so I want to first just put out a poll, put out some feelers. I want everyone to hit up the comments, and I want a 0 to 10 on how good you think you are at time management. If you are just like a killer, like type A, everything's in the calendar, you're rocking it, then give me like a 10. And if you don't know what day it is, then give me a 0. What day is it? It's Tuesday. I guess that means I'm a 0. Okay. I am a 0. Let's see. Am I going to be part of the Blaha gang, Bluhaya gang baking stream? Absolutely. I didn't get an invite, but I would love to be. I'm in. Adam says, well, my CS coursework is due on Friday, and I'm still not code complete, if that means anything to you. Okay, cool. Well, then I would say you're probably not a 10, but you could be a 6, you could be an 8. I don't know. This is something that you have to look inside for. We're going to wait just a few more minutes, but then we will get going and have a chat about time management and productivity. And let me see if I have some cute little slides that I'm going to share. So stick around for those. Let's see. Oh yeah. Let me get that on this screen. Boom. Boom. Okay, yeah, this actually is the thing I'm going to put out there is if I'm talking like I should be showing a screen, then let me know, hey, Will, you're not showing your screen, because I think I forgot that like 17 times last time because I'm really good at this. Boom. Time management. Holy script. Excellent username. Around a 9. Okay. We have a pro amongst us. In that case, I am looking for a lot of feedback. When I say something, I want you to tell me if it's true or not. Hey, my name is Will. I am a coach at Major League Hacking. I am a software engineer at Google full-time. I am a Python enthusiast, and I feel like I never have enough time to do anything. And that is why I am doing a live stream on time management and productivity. A little bit of housekeeping. If I'm going too fast, let me know in the comments. I have had 3 espressos and 2 cups of tea today. So needless to say, I'm a little gassed up. I might need a little sign that I should just slow down. Additionally, if I say something you disagree with, looking at you, Holy Script, let me know. Light me up in the comments. I am really interested in what y'all's strategies are. And if something is like a just me thing, then I would like to know that. I think I've got to say that I think this live stream originally was supposed to be on building productivity apps. But the prompt they give me was kind of vague, and I was just given the words time management / productivity. And I took a little license. So instead of building a calendar app, we're going to have a conversation about how to get the most out of our time. I will say, I think productivity apps are great. And if you are working on one, I will reserve time at the end to do live brainstorming and debugging for anybody who is actually engaged in building a productivity app. Yes, woo for espresso. Yeah. I have one style. This is my slide style. We got photo on the left, we got some text on the right, and that's just how things are going to be. So I have never actually thought of myself as a super productive person. I do a lot of things, right? I am a full-time engineer at Google. I do a lot of hackathon coaching with Major League Hacking. I run every day. I grow crops in my hydroponic farm. So I guess I qualify, but I definitely feel like feeling like I never have enough time is a thing that I have always struggled with. And I think it's a thing that almost every human being struggles with. I don't have a secret formula or anything, but I have spent a lot of time thinking about time management and spent a lot of time working with people at Google, Amazon, Major League Hacking, and private companies that have also spent a lot of time thinking about this. So roughly, I am going to break our conversation down into 2 big categories: short time scales and long time scales, or short time horizons and longer time horizons. You can think about short time scales are like how do I structure my day, and longer time scales are like how do I make sure I don't waste my semester, or how do I make sure I don't waste my year. And so we're gonna look at broadly those 2 things, and I'll give us a little intermission in the middle. Let's see. Adam wants to see my farm. Yes, maybe. This is the trouble, is I am not on a laptop. I have 17 monitors. Okay, I have 2 monitors, and I have this camera, and it's not going to be easy to move. Maybe I will record a quick little tour of my hydroponic farm and share it as a treat later. How about that? But yeah, I grow crops. I have a giant tank and a pump that pumps water over the roots of some arugula. It's a good time. But that is not what we are talking about today. We're talking about time management. So our conversation about short-term time horizons, shorter time scales, I'm going to broadly break up into scheduling algorithms and multitasking. There is nothing these are not the 2 branches of short-term time planning. These are just 2 ideas that I think are interesting to look at. And when it comes to scheduling algorithms, this is basically going to be a love letter to this book, Algorithms to Live By Brian Christian. And it's a super fun read. I would recommend it to anybody who is interested in life hacking, productivity, or computer science. Honestly, it taught me just as much about algorithms as it did about time management. We're not going to go through all of it, but there are 2 chapters that I wanted to dig in on. And the first one is on scheduling. So we're going to have a conversation about that. Adam suggests connecting my phone to StreamYard so it can move around. That's a good idea. Does StreamYard make that easy? Again, grandma discovered the internet. I'm not a pro live streamer, but if that's viable, the next time I do a live stream, I will give a live tour. Great. Scheduling algorithms. Let's get into it. I'll be honest, this book taught me basically just as much about algorithms as it did about time management. And And the goal of the whole book is to take lessons that people have learned from computer science and figure out how to apply them to our lives. The framework is kind of theoretical, but the idea is for scheduling algorithms is you have some set of tasks, and each of them will take a certain amount of time, and you have some amount of time to do them, and they each have a due date, right? On a computer, I think it's pretty easy to think about these are like programs that need to be run. And, the due date is like if there's some timeout set on them, basically. But we're not that different from computers, right? Like we have calendars. I have a calendar or a to-do list. If you have a calendar or to-do list, you are doing a version of sort of this version of scheduling. In the book, Christian throws out 3 different scheduling algorithms that have all been used at different points for different things. And I'm going to run through them. And then we're going to talk about what's good about them and what their limitations are, and like if they're actually applicable to our lives. So without further ado, scheduling algorithm number 1 is called earliest due date. I don't have slides for these. We're just going to kind of go off. Holy Script says, going to do object-oriented time management then? No, we will not be. We'll be a little bit more abstracted than that. We will not be getting object-oriented. Well, I mean, I guess it depends. From like a philosophical perspective, maybe. I don't know. We'll see what you think. So earliest due date is a really simple scheduling algorithm. You have a list of tasks. Each of those tasks is a due date, and you just pick whichever task has the earliest due date, and you do it, right? When you are done with that task, you look at all the tasks you have left, and again, you just pick whatever task has the earliest due date, and you do it. This comes with a super nice guarantee, and I'm going to try to say this right, that it guarantees that you will minimize the lateness of the most late task. So the author, Christian, calls this minimizing maximal lateness. This is like computer scientist lingo, right? But that just means that if a job is going to be late, with this strategy, earliest due date, your latest task will be less late than any other ordering of the tasks. This is probably the way that a lot of people just naturally organize their time, right? If you have like 10 lab assignments this semester, if I have 10 lab assignments this semester, I'm going to do the first lab assignment first, right? Like that's the one with the earliest due date. That's the one that I'm currently learning about. I'm going to do that first, and then the next one, and then the next one, right? I don't think too hard about it. It's pretty, I would say it's pretty natural. Oh gosh, Eisenhower's matrix quadrant 1 tasks. Oh, this is Eisenhower's matrix like the urgent and important? Is that a name for that? If it is, that's like, yes, I'm totally with you. There's this idea that, every task is can either be important or not important, but separately it can also be either urgent or not urgent, right? And things in that kind of that first quadrant, important and urgent, these are the things that that you really got to do, right? Like if your house is catching on fire, then like calling the fire department is like calling 911. That is like urgent and important, right? I would say that getting a text from a friend might be something that kind of feels urgent but less important, right? Or actually tuning into this live stream might be urgent but less important. Actually, I'm not gonna say this live stream is super important. You should be here. And this is quadrant 1, urgent and important. But then you also have things that are, maybe not urgent but important. Like, right now filing my taxes, not urgent but is important. I would say, so I mean, okay, this is a little bit of a digression. I'm going to get us back to our 3 scheduling algorithms that we just got through earliest due date. But I would say that computer science coursework starts as important but not urgent. And then as time goes on and the due date gets closer, you end up doing what is both urgent and important, right? That a lab that is due in a week is maybe important but not urgent. And a lab that's due in 30 minutes is both important and urgent. That would be my 2 cents. Though we were not going to talk too strictly in terms of urgency and importance here. That is like a super reasonable framework to apply, but it's not it's not something that I have super unique thoughts on. I think it's like a helpful model to apply. And maybe it's something, I mean, I'm glad you actually brought it up because I think it's like, it's a cool way of thinking about things as well. But back to scheduling algorithms. And maybe we'll look for some connections between the Eisenhower matrix and these scheduling algorithms. So the next one on the list is called Moore's algorithm. And for anyone familiar with Moore's law, this is not related. I'm going to try not to say Moore's law when I mean Moore's algorithm, but I'm probably going to mess up. I'm just going to get it out of the way. Moore's law is the idea that the amount of components you can fit in a fixed space roughly doubles every 2 years. I think it is every year and a half or something. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about how small we can build transistors. But Moore's algorithm is a scheduling algorithm. So say you have a list of tasks and the same list of due dates, but this time you know you're not going to have time for everything, right? Like say you have all the tasks you have are going to total up to, 100 hours and you only have a 40-hour work week, say. That's what we're dealing with. So you know you're not going to have time for everything. Moore's algorithm says as soon as you know you're not going to finish all of your work, you should just take the biggest chunk of work that you have and literally just throw it away. Just like yeet it out the window. Don't do it. Then after you get rid of that biggest piece of work, take the job with the earliest due date and do that. We're kind of back to earliest due date. When it comes time to pick up another task, look again to see if you have enough time to finish everything on time. And if you can't, again, take the biggest chunk of work and just throw it away. The thing here is that we already know that something is going to be late, right? We don't have enough time to finish everything. What Moore's law, not Moore's law, what Moore's algorithm guarantees is that you're going to minimize the number of jobs that are late. Instead of having 3 late jobs, you might only have 1, or 1 job that doesn't get done at all. Right. One way of thinking about it is if you throw it away after all the other tasks are done, you could always go back and do it, but you don't have to necessarily. So one great example of this is having a movie marathon. Right. So I like Wes Anderson movies. Is anybody a fan of Wes Anderson? If you're not familiar, Wes Anderson is a director and he makes movies that are all weird in the exact same way. And I like them. So I want to watch as many of them as I can in one day. Let's say after sleeping and showering and eating and doing all the stuff I have to do, I know I have 12 hours for a movie marathon. But there are over 16 hours of Wes Anderson movies currently released. So Moore's algorithm says if my goal is just to finish you can think of like my due date for watching all these movies is like the end of the day, then I'm done. And if my goal is just to finish as many movies as possible, then Moore's law says just don't watch the longest movie. And if you still have enough time, or if you still don't have enough time, then get rid of the next longest one. And if you still don't have enough time, get rid of the next longest one. And then that will leave you with enough time to watch as many movies as possible. Thank you, Def Not Kevo and Adam. Y'all are sweet. I'm fans of y'all. So this is Moore's algorithm, not Moore's law, Moore's algorithm. Any questions here? One thing I'll throw out is with earliest due date, we talked about the guarantee is that whatever task is the latest, it'll be the least late. So that is like whatever your single latest task is with earliest due date, it will be the least late. Whereas with Moore's algorithm, we're kind of guaranteeing that some things are going to be super late, but we'll have the most number of tasks that are not late at all. So that's kind of the difference there. I think Holy Script, I think it is pretty intuitive. It's if you know you're not going to get to everything, then just start cutting dead weight, right? Start getting rid of stuff. Adam you may have done this before. And we'll actually talk about kind of whether or not these can actually hold up in real life and when they might actually be useful. Okay. Def Not Kevo asked, do I believe in the Snowball or the Avalanche method in regard to tasks, you the heaviest or your smallest first? Yeah, this is like a really, really good question. I I think there are like lots of self-help books that like usually fall into one of these categories. I think there's a book called Get Shit Done, and then there's one that's like Eat That Frog or something, and they're kind of these two different ends of the spectrum that are, some are like do your easiest tasks first, and then some are like do your hardest or most important tasks first. And we are gonna like hold this thought. We're gonna dive into it after we talk about one more scheduling algorithm, and we'll get to comparing them. So the last scheduling algorithm I'm going to throw out there is shortest job first. This is like in some ways kind of the granddaddy of scheduling algorithms because it comes with a very nice guarantee. So each of these scheduling algorithms has kind of their own benefits and their own guarantees. Shortest job first also has a pretty reasonable name. If you have the same list of tasks and say the due dates are perhaps flexible, just order them in terms of how long they take to complete and then finish them in that order. Do your shortest job first, and then your next shortest job, and then your next shortest job. This would be definitely the Snowball Method, right? It's doing the smallest thing and then building up to the bigger things. This one has the guarantee that shortest job first will minimize the total amount of time spent waiting on all the other jobs. When I first heard of this guarantee, I didn't believe it at first because it's like you have to do all of the tasks, right? You'll end up waiting the same amount of time. And actually, for that, I think there's a good visual here. Back to sharing my screen. So I don't know if this is big enough. I don't think I can make it bigger without making me silent. So we're gonna go with it. And so this is the example. Think about like working with clients. Say you have learned how to build a website with MLH and you've started building sites for small businesses. So each small business is a client. And let's say you have like 2 different projects you have to do this morning for 2 different clients. You don't need sleep, coffee shop, and pizza is a vegetable, pizzeria. Yes. So you know that the coffee shop site is going to take 4 hours to complete. It's got to be artsy and avant-garde, right? But the pizza site is pretty simple, and it's only going to take you 2 hours. You're super, super productive. So if you do the coffee shop first, the coffee shop has to wait 4 hours, and then the pizza shop has to wait 6 hours until you've finished the pizza shop's job, right? So you're waiting 4 hours, or you don't need sleep is waiting 4 hours. Pizza as a vegetable is waiting 6 hours. So collectively, all of your clients are waiting 10 hours, right? That's not doing shortest job first. If you flip them and do the shorter job first, then suddenly you don't need sleep is waiting 2 hours, and you don't need sleep is waiting 6 hours now, and then the pizza as a vegetable is only waiting 2. And so if you add those together, then you have 8 hours of total waiting. So that 2 hours saved, that is sort of the magic of shortest job first. Another way of thinking about it is that shortest job first, or another word name for this is the Avalanche method, or not the Avalanche method, the Snowball method, is that you are going to have the shortest possible to-do list faster, right? If you start checking off all of the small things, you are going to, kind of build momentum in theory and kind of shrink your to-do list. And if other people are waiting on you, then this means that they're going to be waiting sort of the least amount of time. When I was in college, I'm not going to tell you about when I was in college for like 2 more seconds, because I want to sort of frame this whole conversation about these scheduling algorithms. I am not recommending that I will tell you about Will in college, Adam. Don't worry. I am not recommending that you just pick one of these scheduling algorithms and follow it to the T to plan your entire life. That would not work. In the real world, our list of tasks is constantly changing. Some tasks are more important than others, and deadlines might get pushed back or moved around. In general, like this is not like directly applicable. But I think there is something that we can learn from each of these scheduling tasks. Like Holy Script has a great point that that when you have varying levels of importance and different deadlines, that something like shortest job first becomes becomes a lot harder. There's also another like massive problem that in all of these cases, we have assumed that you know how long every task is going to take. And that's like not a thing that we often know. But I'm going to table that discussion for a second. And I want to throw out that, at least for me, when I read this chapter in this book, Algorithms to Live By, that the big takeaway here is that every strategy you might have to organize your work is going to come with its own guarantees and its own strengths, right? Earliest due date, where you just do things that are due the earliest, is like guarantees that the latest thing won't be any later than it has to be. Moore's algorithm guarantees that the fewest number of things will be late, and shortest job first guarantees that the total waiting time for all of your tasks will be minimized, or that you'll get your to-do list short fastest. Each of these is good for different types of work. For example, this is like now I want to talk about me in college, right? When I was in college, I used earliest due date for all of my assignments, right? Like I knew that I was going to have to finish all of my assignments, and it was going to make more sense to do them in order and kind of minimize the lateness as much as I could. It was also helpful that, because you get docked points, or at least for me in college, that I could turn in a lot of assignments a day late, but I would like lose a letter grade, right? So I really wanted to minimize the lateness of that most late thing, because I didn't want to accidentally turn in something so late that I just failed because it was late. And so earliest due date was like a really natural thing to apply to sort of my coursework, my labs, and stuff like that. Shortest job first, in fact, was actually my chosen strategy when I was doing a lot of client work. In college, this is actually like a fun story. I think it was my freshman summer. And this is like, y'all take notes. I'm dispensing wisdom here. Maybe some of you already have like cool side gigs, but I think it was my first summer in college. I didn't have like a job or an internship lined up. And so I sent like 300 letters. I got a local small business directory, and I sent 300 letters out to small businesses. And I just said like, hey, I would build you a website if you wanted one. Like I will do it for cheap because I'm poor and a college student. And out of 300 letters that I sent out, I got one response. And they were like, hey, how about like $400 for a website? And I was like, shit, I don't know what that is worth, but $400 sounds awesome. And so I said yes. And then that led to other work, and I met other people, and it kind of became an ongoing side gig of, building websites for folks. But that involved different clients that wanted different things. And shortest job first was basically the way that I organized what work I was going to get done. If someone had work that I could finish in an hour, I would just knock that out and get it back to them, and they'd be happy. And then if someone has a project for me that I know is going to take a month, then that's not going to get prioritized, right? I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it when I have sort of free time. And so that was shortest job first. I think Moore's algorithm, when I was in college, is basically the way that I thought about extracurriculars, things that I wanted to do and I wanted to engage in, but I knew that there were more clubs that I wanted to be part of than I had time for. Right. All of them were really neat, and all of them were exciting, and all of them had fun people. But it wasn't, I wasn't going to be able to be part of 36 different clubs. And so when came time to think about what I couldn't do, I thought about, okay, what is the single thing that takes the most amount of time? And maybe if I give up neuroscience club, then I can do both the cybersecurity club and the machine learning club, say. That was like a real decision that I made at one point. But this idea that you're not going to have time enough for everybody is something, or you're not going to have time for everything that you want to do, is something that I want to actually get into a little bit later when we talk about longer timescales. Yes, now I work at Google, and that's like, I still often do little side projects, and like I work with MLH and stuff, but I'm not making websites for $400. I will tell you that. I am getting paid better than minimum wage. Also, there is something that I want to touch on before we get to longer timescales, and that is a specter that haunts all conversations about productivity. which is multitasking. Although, actually, before we go there, I want to just jump back for a second. A couple people raised super interesting points. One was about the sort of Eisenhower matrix, about things that are important but not urgent, or things that are urgent but not important, or things that are both or neither. And then someone also mentioned the Snowball Method and the Avalanche Method. And I just kind of want to like do some shouts out. I know we talked about the Eisenhower matrix, that, it is on one axis you have, is this thing important or not important? And the other axis is it urgent or is it not urgent? And I think that definitely one of the flaws of these scheduling algorithms is that they assume that everything has equal importance, right? The earliest due date basically just assumes that everything's of equal importance. You just care about what everything is going to be the latest, making it least late. Moore's algorithm just assumes that whatever, that really we care about everything equally, and you want the smallest number of tasks to be late. And then shortest job first, basically it says that all of your clients' time is worth the same. And like, hey, like if I have one client that's paying me $100 an hour and another client that's paying me $40 an hour, like I might just prioritize the $100 an hour client, even if it is a longer job, right? And so I think that sort of passing through the Eisenhower matrix and really seeing, okay, all of these things have due dates, but some of these things actually matter. Obviously, you want to be living your life sort of in the first in the urgent and important sort of quadrant of the matrix, and then you want to be moving down to the maybe important but not quite as urgent, right? That's kind of how I would make these two domains interact. Adam asks, the real question is, will Will have enough time for this whole presentation in this stream? Y'all, I have so much time. We're like almost done with short time horizons, and then we're gonna have a little intermission and take a break and just chill for a second. So yeah, we'll be fine, Adam. Don't you worry. The one other thing that someone threw out there that I thought was great was the Avalanche Method and the Snowball Method. So I'll reiterate this, and whoever mentioned it, if I'm like misquoting you or you think what I'm saying is not right, like let me know. But broadly, the Snowball Method is do your easiest, shortest tasks first, sort of build up momentum, check things off of your to-do list, and then do your sort of bigger tasks later on. And then the Avalanche Method is kind of the reverse, is like get rid of that one giant task that has been looming over you, and then sort of work your way back down so things continually get easier and easier. So shortest job first is totally the Snowball Method. Those are like almost identical. And I think that that one way of thinking about why shortest job first is so great and why the Snowball Method is so great is in cases where you're working with other people, right? So I work on a team at Google. We build things. We build benchmarking software to like see how fast things go. And I am on lots of the projects that I'm working with other engineers. And there might be on my to-do list, I might have a code review, and I might have a self-assessment, and I might have a doc to write. And then I might have like a large like sit down and code task on a new project that I'm working on. And those things at the top were kind of easier and quicker. And the things at the bottom were kind of bigger and more work. But those things at the top, until I finish them, someone else is blocked, right? If you get into a professional context, you'll hear the word blocked a lot. And it basically just means my teammate can't do their work until I finish this task. And so one thing that shortest job first, or the Snowball Method, is great at is making sure that other people are unblocked as fast as you can get them unblocked. So I think there's a lot to be said for that Snowball Method. I think the Avalanche Method, which is sort of do the hardest thing first, is in some ways psychologically nice, because oftentimes that hardest task is not as hard as you think it might be. I will say probably just, if I'm going to take a step back and just say pick the Snowball Method or the Avalanche Method, I'm going to pick the Snowball Method. I like building momentum. I like checking things off my list. I like getting other people unblocked. But ultimately, I'm actually going to bring back the Eisenhower matrix of the idea that some things, even though they have early due dates, are not actually that important. And I would say that both of the Snowball Method and the Avalanche Method are a little bit oversimplified, right? That all of them treat everything sort of as equally important and as sort of equally deserving of being finished early. And I think really you have to take a look at, your actual scheduling is going to be a little bit more nuanced like that than that. As we just talked about, the sort of the context is going to determine what's important, right? For schoolwork where you cannot have anything be late, earliest due date is a really good approach or a good starting point. If you are working with clients and you want to get things back to them quickly, shortest job first is your best bet. And then if you have freedom to decide what you're doing, if you're doing extracurriculars or personal projects, then Moore's algorithm, where you just kind of cut out the biggest things and just say, I'm not going to do that at all, can also be really effective and let you do lots of things. So jumping back to the comments, I absolutely agree, Malaka2459, that checking things off of a to-do list is really great. And you can always do the life hack. Here's the real life hack is the first item on your to-do list should be write to-do list. And so when you finish with your to-do list, you can just check off that first item because you've already written your to-do list. Oh, yes. Adam asks if I can change the background, and I'll just make my face big again because we don't need the slides, at least not right now. Holy Script mentions that peeps often tend to overestimate what can be done in short time frames and estimate for longer time frames. Yeah, this is true. I would say maybe your first statement is very, very true, that people often overestimate what can be done in short time frames. I also think that oftentimes people overestimate what can be done in long time frames as well. But I think that time estimation is a really hard problem. And I'm just going to come out right now and say that estimating how long things will take is, for me, an unsolved problem. So I actually don't have any advice to offer about how to better estimate besides time tracking, which we can talk about a little bit, and just having some data on it. But if anybody has strategies for sort of estimating how long your different tasks are going to take, please drop them in the comments because I would love to learn something today. So, multitasking. Multitasking is this specter that hangs in the ether whenever people talk about time management. And there's a short version of this conversation, and then there's a long version of this conversation. The short version you may have heard before. Multitasking does not work. It's been proven like a dozen different ways that multitasking is just like it's not real, right? Humans, broadly speaking, can't multitask. What you can do is switch between different tasks really fast. So it maybe feels like you are multitasking, but you're only ever actually doing one at a time. On top of that, every time you switch tasks, you do what's called a context switch, meaning that you have to remember different things that are relevant for different tasks, right? If I am coding and then cooking dinner at the same time, I am jumping between them. And as soon as I start coding, I have to remember like what was the function that I was writing. And then when I jump back to cooking, I have to remember what step of the recipe was I on. And all of that remembering actually makes me less effective at either task. Every time you have to context switch, you waste time remembering things you weren't already thinking about. And this is actually exactly what a computer does. You can run multiple programs on the same CPU core at the same time, but you don't actually run them at the same time. It actually switches between different processes really, really quickly. So you kind of almost get tricked into thinking they're running at the same time. That is, concurrency and threading is just a big old conversation that we're not going to get too deep in. But so this is the short version. I said there's a long version as well, and now there's a long version, which is multitasking doesn't work usually. I think there are a few ways that multitasking can actually work, and I think they're really powerful. And so I want to talk about them a little bit. Let's see. Adam says that he's multitasking right now. Well, yeah, you're rapidly context switching. Adam. Okay, that's what I'll say. But actually, we'll chat for a second about how maybe you're actually multitasking. Holy Script, the Doist blog is pretty illuminating stuff. Ooh, I'm going to check that out. Everybody check out the Doist blog. blog.doist.com. Am I pronouncing that right? I feel like how I'm leaving you on a cliffhanger about what ways I think you can actually multitask. Edray9 says, God bless multi-core processors. Yes. Hell yes to that. Actually, I'm about to start working on a project where I don't want to violate an NDA or anything, but we're trying to really minutely measure different resources on a computer, on a virtual machine. And there's a worry that one is going to create noise to the other program running, because these are going to be stressing memory and stressing disk and stressing network. And if you have multiple processors, multi-core processors, then you can just say, this one should just run on that core, and this one should just run on that core. And that is going to save my bacon. So yes, God bless multi-core processors. They are the best. Okay, back to multitasking. Multitasking doesn't work usually. I'm going to put out that I think that there are two categories of multitasking that can actually be valuable. One is what I'm going to call mind-body multitasking. The key thing to remember is that you have a body and a mind, and in some cases, they can be doing different things. One way of thinking about this with a computer is that a computer has a processor. Let's just think about a single core processor. It has a processor, but it also has peripherals, right? And it can, in many cases, be writing to disk or doing things with peripherals at the same time that it is computing things. So exercise is a great example of this. I go running, and while I'm running, I am fully capable of listening to an audiobook. This kind of multitasking can actually work, in my opinion. You can read while you ride a stationary bike. Another great way to multitask is to listen to music or a podcast while you're showering or taking a bath. These are all sort of body-mind multitasking. Does anybody else have other examples of sort of body-mind multitasking where your body's doing one thing, but your mind is able to do something else? I'll say a weird example of this is if anybody has tried to lucid dream. I am not a sleep scientist, but I will stand by this claim that in high school, I kept a dream journal, and I was did all these different things to try to help myself lucid dream. And I believe on 2 occasions I did sort of purposefully lucid dream. And I actually was able to, while my body was sleeping, think about some different problems in my life. And I didn't have any crazy breakthroughs, but I did feel like I was able to, do some thinking while I was asleep. Holy Script says burpees and language learning. I like it. I like some language immersion while doing exercise. Yeah, exercise is a really easy one for mind-body multitasking. So mind-body multitasking, the one other sort of class of multitasking that I think actually works is kind of multitasking. It is to find activities that fill more than one purpose. One awesome example here is to spend quality time with friends or loved ones while you are doing something that you need to do, right? Y'all, I go grocery shopping with my boyfriend, and it is a hoot. We do other actually fun things together, but we go grocery shopping every other day because we eat a lot, I guess. And that's really good. It's like a nice way to spend time and do something we already had to do. I like baking a lot, and I'm really lucky to have a group of friends that I will Zoom with every Sunday and bake with. So I'm, developing this skill, and I am, cooking some food for me to eat, and I'm hanging out with friends. And so that's really good. Another sort of under the same umbrella of these sort of activities that complete several tasks is finding productive ways to release stress. I often have times when I've been coding for hours and I just need a break. And I just need to think about, I need to not think about the cloud for 5 minutes, right? And practicing ukulele is a great way to de-stress. I am technically multitasking because I am completing the task of taking a break while also completing the task of practicing ukulele. On that note, after we answer some questions or respond to some comments, I'm going to grab my ukulele and give you a little ukulele intermission because that will be fun. Let's see. Listening to music while coding. Yeah, I think that totally counts. That I would say that in this case, listening to music is serving the purpose of both, exposing you to music that you like and also potentially actually helping you focus. What is my preferred grocery store chain? This is dicey. We can get into it. There are lots of good grocery stores. I will say that I have a particular fondness for Trader Joe's. I think they have lots of good food there. I think they have really awesome soup. I think they always have red bell peppers, and they're always really inexpensive, and that's really big. I eat like 17,000 of their Caesar salad kits every day, which honestly, I should just make my own Caesar salad, but they have a little kit and it's nice. So Trader Joe's, great. I end up going to QFC, which is like the part of Kroger. If you have like a Kroger, or I think it's also called Smith's in certain places in the country. And then QFC is something we have in Washington, in Seattle, where I live. And so I go to QFC because it's just cheap and it's like standard grocery store. I also like Whole Foods. Sometimes I will go to Whole Foods. There's one really close by, so it's nice to grab stuff. And that's nice. There's also several different co-ops, food co-ops here. So there's like the PCC co-op in Seattle is nice, and they have really, really tasty stuff. I don't know. Is my boyfriend here? Richard, are you here? Y'all, he's not here. I was going to ask him what grocery stores I like. But yeah, I think Trader Joe's is probably at the top of the list. I go to QFC a lot. I'm not like singing its praises. Here's some tea. I don't like Safeway. Maybe it's just because the Safeways in Seattle are just not killing it, but I go to a Safeway and it's not for me. I hold Safeway in my hands and it does not spark joy. But yeah, Trader Joe's is great. I have had Trader Joe's soup dumplings. At least before I was vegetarian, I did. At least the ones I hadn't eaten them, and they were super tasty. So that's killer. Salad is great, y'all. If y'all been sleeping on salad is tasty. The key is just to drench it in dressing and cheese and croutons, and it is just an absolute treat. Yeah, I am a vegetarian. I am not going to tell you why I became a vegetarian because I'm not gonna get into that because I can't say it on air. That would be inappropriate. But I think it's time for a short little ukulele intermission. This is the perfect time to grab a drink or go to the bathroom. And when we come back, I am going to tell you why everything I just said is wrong. Yes, I will say it off air for my Patreon subs. Oh, y'all, I learned how to play, what is it? Banana Pancakes by Jack Johnson. Oh gosh, I know like a few of the chords in Over the Rainbow. Let's see. Anyway, here's Wonderwall. Yes. No, I will take requests. I'm gonna go to the bathroom and get a drink of water myself. And if you want to leave requests for songs for me to learn next time, I will play them for you. Y'all, I leave you for like 30 seconds and you say, I will donate $100 to your preferred charity of choice if you do my neck, my back next time you stream. Censored, of course, so you don't get fired by any of your employers. That actually sounds like a fun thing to do just because it would be like a nice challenge to censor that song. That's like if anybody saw the Grammy performance for WAP. I have never watched an award show before, but I watched the Grammys this year, and it was actually really fun. And Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion do a version of WAP that is, appropriate for prime time, I guess. Yeah, I will seriously consider it. How about that? And then I will pick a charity. Okay, before we get going, and I tell you why I'm an idiot and everything I say was wrong, I'm gonna open a bottle of kombucha. I was mentioning that earlier I was brewing my own kombucha, which is like a kind of fermented tea, which if I tell you too much about it, it's gonna sound gross, but it's like a spicy pomegranate tea. Spicy is not the right word, but it's like the word I have. And I think it's gonna be really fun to watch it open. Let me see if it will cover my... Oh, did y'all hear that? Or was it too far from the mic? I don't know. Kombucha ASMR with Will later. Okay, good shit. But yeah, if anybody is in Seattle, drop by and I will give you some kombucha. All right. We're back. Welcome. Thank you for sticking around. It means a lot to me. So we're going to talk about productivity at over longer time scales, but I want to comment on our conversation about multitasking. I think a lot of people like this idea that they can get more hours in the day, that you can cram multiple tasks into the same hour. And y'all, I do listen to podcasts while I'm in the shower. I do go grocery shopping with my boyfriend. And at the same time, I think the mentality of always trying to cram in more when taken to the extreme can be really bad for everybody. I think sometimes we need to rest. I think sometimes we just need to disconnect and reset. And if we're thinking about how can I de-stress the fastest while also learning a new hobby and keeping up with that TV show, and I can tell you that's not going to work. It's not going to do the thing you want it to do. You're going to end up more tired and more stressed. And it has been really helpful for me to regularly forget everything for a minute and sort of recenter myself and think about what I actually want. Because it's really easy to get caught up in your to-do list and forget why you have a to-do list at all, right? It seems silly, but you should try to remember what your goals actually are, what you actually want your life to be. On that note, I am going to sort of step away from the void. We've had our moment of sort of philosophical confrontation. And let's talk a little bit about long time scales. Oh yeah, I made this slide for that moment. I didn't use it, but you know, we need that. Let's see, what slide is next? Do we have any other slides? It seems that maybe that was the last slide. Wait, I am sure I made other slides. No, y'all, that was the last slide. Okay. So long time scales. The first topic that I want to touch on with long time scales is another idea that I'm stealing whole cloth from Algorithms to Live By, and it is called exploring and exploiting. I want to put out that the title of this chapter has the word exploit in it, and the word exploit has a lot of different negative connotations, like exploiting the proletariat and such. And like, think about it not like that. Just erase all of your prior conceptions of what the word exploit means. But really, exploit just means to make use of, at least in our conversation going forward. And explore exploit is an idea that I end up using when I am planning for longer timescales. This isn't so much about whether to answer your emails before you do your homework. It's more like how many classes do I take this semester versus next semester. But before I go in like too deep, I want to start with an example. So say you are on vacation to a cute little town in the Swiss Alps, and it's a small town, and there are only 10 restaurants in this town, and bewilderingly, none of them are on the internet. And every day you're going to get to go to one restaurant, and you are in town for 100 days, right? And if you are going to explore, then this just means you're going to see what every restaurant has to offer. And so you are going to go and try out every single restaurant, right? Day 1, you try restaurant 1. Day 2, you try restaurant 2. And then at the end of the first 10 days, you know exactly how much you like every restaurant, right? Then for the remaining 90 days, you can exploit this new knowledge and just go to the restaurants that you really like. If we change this scenario and say you're only in town for 3 days, but there are still 10 restaurants, you would do things a little bit differently. On your first day, you go to restaurant A and you have like an allergic reaction to the food and it almost kills you. And then on the second day, you go to restaurant B and you like that one quite a bit. So the question is, what do you do on the third day? Do you go to restaurant A or restaurant B? Answer in the comments if you have feelings, while I also read comments from Kevin and Adam. Yeah, I guess morally I'm required to do my neck, my back now, I suppose. I would be very interested in a gambling story. I'm super, super down. No, so you have 3 options, basically. You can either go back to the restaurant that, your 3 options, good question, are, bring your EpiPen and go back to restaurant A, the one that almost killed you. You could go back to restaurant B and know that you're probably going to have a good time, or you can try one of the other 7 restaurants and sort of roll the dice. And this is your third and final day. So restaurant A, restaurant B, or pick one of the remaining 7. Or remaining 8, I guess. Okay, so Adam picks one of the other 8 random restaurants. Def Not Kevo also says try one of the other 7. Okay, so this is, and I'll preface this with there is no, I don't necessarily know that there is a provable answer here, because this is on some level a matter of taste, right? Some people just value variety more than quality in some abstract sense. But what the explore exploit sort of algorithm would say, so we're getting a lot of votes for exploring. What explore exploit would tell us is to consider sort of 3 different things. One is what's the likelihood you're actually going to have a good time and enjoy it, right? The second question is, are you going to learn anything from it? And then the third question is, if you learn anything, how long will you be able to use what you have learned, right? So let's look at each of the 3 options. If you go to restaurant A, the likelihood you're going to enjoy it is 0, because it almost killed you and will almost kill you again. Are you going to learn anything from it? Probably not. Like maybe you could try new dishes, but like you kind of already saw what was there, right? Say you had like a buffet, you tried everything. So you're not going to learn anything from it, and because you're not going to learn anything from it, you can't use that, right? So that's restaurant A. If you go back to restaurant B, what's the likelihood you enjoy it? Like pretty high. Are you going to learn anything from it? No, you are not going to learn anything. And then if you learn anything, you're not going to learn anything. So we don't answer question 3. So then we have to look at like if we pick a random restaurant out of the remaining 7. Are we going to enjoy it? The likelihood, I would say, is kind of a toss-up, right? It's kind of 50-50. Maybe we have an allergic reaction again. Maybe we love it. Maybe it's fine. But are we going to learn anything from it? The answer is absolutely yes. We will now have data on another one of the 10 restaurants, right? And then that third question is, given that we're learning something, how long will we be able to use that information? And the answer is because this is day number 3, and in this scenario, we are only staying for 3 days, we actually can't really use that knowledge, right? We have learned something, but we are not actually able to put that new knowledge to good use. The idea here is that like if you're either playing some kind of game or you are exploring some space, that the amount of time you are spending in that space is really important, right? That in the scenario where you have 20 days left, then absolutely you should explore. But if you only have 1 day left and you already know one restaurant that's pretty good and one restaurant that killed you, like probably going to the one that you already know is pretty good, it at least makes more sense because you don't have more time to benefit from learning anything new. Well, so, okay, Definitely Kevo says, Kevin from Gambling, no game, but no future. Let's do third restaurant, then fourth, then fifth. Well, I think this is the point, is that, and I think this is the key with a lot of sort of like gambling games, is that you usually can think of being able to play as many games as you want. Okay, I thought you were doing a funny sort of internet text thing, but you just meant gamble. And I think in the case where you can do as many iterations of the thing as you want, and you can keep going back and trying it again and again, then like it almost always makes more sense to explore, right? Because you always have more time to do that exploitation and to benefit from what you've learned. But if you know you only have one more shot, or you only have 2 more shots, that it's going to make more sense to start actually benefiting from the knowledge that you've gained and doing the things that you already know that are going to work out for you. So let's bring this back to real life. In college, I know I mentioned we were going to talk about when you know you can't do everything, sort of with extracurriculars in college. In college, you have like a lot of choices of different extracurriculars, right? And this explore-exploit strategy tells us that you should spend a period of college trying on a lot of different things, right? Go to interest group meetings, join different clubs, see what you like, meet different people, go to parties, all these things. And then at some point, once you have gathered some information, then you should transition into being a little bit more exploitative, or continuing to go to the things that you have enjoyed in the past, right? Like this is definitely how my college career went. My my freshman and sophomore year, I did everything, right? Like I went to everything. I was a jack of all trades, master of none. And then my junior and senior year, I started picking the things that I really liked. I started getting deeper into hackathons. I started a machine learning club. There were like groups of friends that I realized these are the people that I like hanging out with. I'm just going to spend more time with them. And that was really, really, like, at least for me, a good strategy. Kevin says, in gambling, the term is considered nitty, to do a safe bet versus potentially better or worse bet. You're right. It depends on how many bets, in your case, days you have. It comes down to expected value. If you have 1 day left in your trip, be nitty and go to the relative best restaurant. If you have infinite days left, go to everyone and find the restaurant you like the most. Yeah, I think that's totally super reasonable. I think we are saying roughly a similar thing in different words. I think another interesting like comparison to when you are gambling, like if you're playing poker, the idea that other people are going to change how they're behaving in response to what you're doing, like throws a lot of models off, right? Like in our example with restaurants, we are thinking about like Like, we're not expecting a restaurant to, like, because we go there, to, like, change their menu, right? Which is maybe not a great assumption. Like, in the first example, we would go to this restaurant and they served us something and it almost killed us because we had an allergic reaction. Like, that might have given them bad press, and they might have chosen to, like, change their menu to something that did not kill people because of what we did, because of our actions. And so in that scenario, I think a lot of this, like, I mean, it makes things a lot more complex, right? And I think in a lot of, at least my understanding is that in a lot of gambling, like, that's, you end up having to deal with models that are, like, quite a bit more complex to account for sort of the iterative ability to respond to your strategy with a sort of reciprocal change in strategy. But I don't know, Kevin, let me know if I'm speaking out of my ass or if that makes sense. But with Explore Exploit, the idea is that it really is knowing how much time you have left to play the game is going to influence what kind of strategy is good. So we mentioned extracurriculars. I think this also is a good thing to apply when picking your classes, right? Obviously, some classes you just have to take. And, my advice is that you take those classes. But sometimes you have options. You have different electives, different teachers that offer kind of the same class. But it's not obvious what class is going to be the best, which one you're going to like. And so something that I did was to sign up for the maximum number of classes I was allowed to take at the beginning of the semester. I would sign up for like 21 credit hours, which usually was like 7 or 8 classes. And this was my explore phase, right? I would go to each class, see how I liked the teacher, see if it was a good time. And then after a week or two before the ad drop deadline, I would drop the 2 or 3 classes that I liked the least. And then I would spend the rest of my semester sort of working really hard at those classes that I kept, knowing that they were better than all my other options. That's Explore Exploit, right? The power here is that Explore Exploit not only helps you make good decisions and spend your time wisely, but it also lets you know that you're making good decisions, and it lets you know that you're spending your time wisely. And that's like really nice, both for spending your time wisely, but also like staying sane and not second guessing yourself. That's Explore Exploit. I don't know. Does anyone have any further like questions, or is everyone on board with that, or do people think that there are other strategies when it comes to making these kinds of decisions that are better? I know broadly Explore Exploit is like pretty vague and can be adapted to different scenarios. I think another thing to say is kind of similar with our scheduling algorithms. Explore Exploit, as I put it, is going to be a little bit oversimplified, but there's always going to be other factors to consider. Do other people change their strategies? Do you, like, in life, we often think of ourselves as having unlimited time. Like, eventually, probably we will die and we will run out of iterations of our game. But we don't like to think about, oh, you only get to do this 3 times, right? Like, we like to think about always being able to go back to something if we can. So that is, a way in which this doesn't line up exactly. Malaka249, I am glad that you agree. Appreciate that. Kevin, your approval means the world to me. Okay, I want to talk about kind of one other big thing when it comes to long-term sort of goal planning. And I want to switch gears and talk about something called SMART goals. You probably have heard of a SMART goal. If you haven't, it's an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Some people, I think, switched attainable out for achievable. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely are the ones I'm going to go with. And yes. And actually, I happen to think that 2 of these letters are freeloaders. Generally speaking, I think if a goal is measurable, if you have already made a measurable goal, then it is specific. If you can tell me exactly how you're going to measure whether you have succeeded or not, then you kind of have already told me what your goal is with a lot of specificity. So I think specific is a freeloader. I also think attainable and realistic are pretty similar as well. I have heard people say that the difference is that there are goals that are technically attainable in theory. Like there's a bunch of stuff that David Blaine does that if I could technically achieve if I wanted to. If I put my mind to it, I could spend 44 days in an iceberg. Wait, that wasn't David Blaine. That was the Avatar. But so that might be technically attainable, but it is not realistic because I am not going to reshape my life around living in an iceberg. But if that's how you're defining attainability, then it's kind of useless to me, right? If a goal is realistic, then by definition, it is already attainable. So I would, if I had my druthers, I would kick out the S and the A, but then I'm just left with an MRT goal, which is like objectively a worse acronym. But 3 bullet points are, easy to reason about. That was kind of a tangent. There's not really a point to that, but I think if you have a desire for something and you're able to form it into a goal that is measurable and realistic and timely, then I think that is a sort of a powerful way to organize your efforts, right? And because we're talking about productivity, there's one that I want to zoom in on a little bit. But Kevin has thoughts. Kevin agrees that realistic is an excuse to disqualify some attainable goals. I dig it. But Kevin defends specific because most people need to funnel down to a measurable one from a specific one. I think that's fair. I think that like first specifying what you want and then moving on to deciding what metric you're going to care about makes sense. This is a little bit of a tangent, but it makes me think about, at least in some circles, there's been a movement away from KPIs to OKRs, or at least in some circles. KPI is a single number that you look at to see like if you are if you're doing your job well, right? Like it can boil down to one number, and that might be like make more shoes, right, in your shoe factory. But the problem is that once you have one number, that like you're just going to optimize for that thing, and like maybe you make really shitty shoes, but you'd make a lot of them, right? Whereas an OKR is like it stands for objective and key result, and it is like the marriage of sort of like a mood board with some kind of result you're looking at. So like if my KPI might be like running fast, like speed, like how fast can I go? But my OKR, my objective might be to be healthy, and then my key result might be running fast. So that's a tangent, but I don't know. I buy it. Adam says KPIs are a feature of the Microsoft Office Specialist Excel 2016 expert team. Oh yeah, you're like an Excel wonder kid, right? You're like really into Excel hacking. I dig it. I like Excel. I also like Google Sheets, a product placement. But so timeliness, that's the thing that I want to zoom in on a little bit and just rant about. There is the experience that has led me to believe that timeliness is so important is the experience of watching other people make and try to keep New Year's resolutions. Obviously, the idea of a New Year's resolution is that you're going to set a goal on New Year's Eve, and you're doing the whole year. You're going to try to accomplish it over the whole next year. It could be to go to the gym 3 times a week, or to learn French, or to actually eat 5 servings of vegetables a day, or whatever. I'm actually curious if you've ever set a New Year's resolution, or if you've set many. Let me know what your most recent New Year's resolution is in the comments. Oh yeah, actually, Adam, you could do battle with Kevin, because Kevin is like master sheet scripter, right? I feel like I have benefited from many Kevin Google Sheet script. Or what is it? There's a word for it. As someone who works at Google, I know woefully little about like all the pro tooling around, like, is it Google Scripts or something? I don't know. There's a lot of cool stuff. But have you ever, this is a real question. I'm trying to get engagement. Have you ever come up with a New Year's resolution? Tell me about it, and then I will put you on blast. Just kidding. I'm not going to put you on blast. Well, I'm not here to diss anybody who has made a New Year's resolution. But in my experience, usually people are able to keep a New Year's resolution for about like a month, maybe 2 months, but usually by mid-February, people are talking about canceling their gym membership and about how French is a stupid language anyway, and they don't want to learn it and all that. And I don't claim to speak for anyone, but that's been my experience, my personal experience and my experience with friends. And I don't think that's because people are weak or lazy or even that they pick bad goals. But I think that doing something for a year is really, really hard, like anomalously hard, right? Yeah, I think Kevin has a good point here that like there is something sort of inherently arbitrary about anchoring your desire for change in your life to a year, right? And I think that New Year's resolutions are like not great for a number of reasons. I mean, one, it's really hard to do something for an entire year. It also makes you really inflexible, right? What if your goal is to run every day and then you break your leg in March? I think there's a pretty easy solution too. At least if you want to do the kind of thing that New Year's resolutions are supposed to do. And there's something that I do that I think is really fun and helpful. But I think to motivate it, I have to like again approach the void and tell you about this experience where I think it was a New Year's Eve party. I think it was my junior year in college, and I was thinking back on the previous year and how I couldn't really tell you what I had done that year. I went to school, I worked hard, I guess, I did an internship, and beyond that, it's like all kind of mush. And it was kind of starting to freak me out, like, oh no, is my entire life like meaningless and am I accomplishing nothing and all this stuff. I felt like I had like, it could be a weird analogy, but if you had like a really good tasting meal or something and you had like put it into a blender and like blended up into mush, like yes, I know there were interesting parts of that meal, but I could not pick out any of them. It was just like a nasty ass smoothie that everything tasted the same. And this was also the moment that I was trying to remember like my previous New Year's resolutions. And I was like reaching out for a life raft, being like, please, New Year's resolution, like save me. Don't let life be a meaningless blur. And I came up with nothing, right? Like I think I had a New Year's resolution the previous year, but I had not actually done it, right? Like maybe I had kept with it for a month. And so the change that I made, and this is like a big buildup, so like a very small idea, but it is just setting micro goals. And instead of having 1 or 2 New Year's resolutions, I just made a list of like 12 micro goals, and I did one each month. These ranged from learning ukulele to running to reading a random Wikipedia article every day. It was kind of a smorgasbord of fun things. And largely, there were the kinds of things that I had previously tried as New Year's resolutions, only I was just trying to do them for a month. And it's worked really well for me. I think a month is like long enough to really invest in something, but it is also short enough that you can reasonably stick with it for that whole period. And I think that there is I think there are lots of kinds of like really long-term behavioral changes that are really important, right? Like I mentioned that like I have stopped eating meat and like I still miss, like I think meat tastes good, but so far I have like appreciated this sort of long-term behavioral change of eating. I think another long-term behavioral change for me has been like just generally being more active. That has been like good for me. But there are lots of things where like I think hobbies are a great example, where I think, hey, I really want to grow hydroponic arugula in my apartment. And then I do that. And then I realize like, wait, now I have this hydroponic rig. Does this mean I'm a farmer for the rest of my life? And I just don't know. And then I end up kind of with this backlog of all of these different tasks. And I think the problem of like wanting to try something and then not being sure if like this is part of your life forever now is one that for me, if I say, hey, you know what, I am going to try this thing for a month. And then if it ends up being integrated into my life as something sort of ongoing, then that's really helpful, right? I think that I think my first micro goal was actually, I remember I was like run walking across crosswalks a lot. And I was like, Will, I feel undignified. I feel like I sweat when I cross the street. This is not fun. And so my goal was like, you know what, Will, you are never going to run across a crosswalk. You are just going to walk. You can either stop and just wait for the next green light, or you can just walk at a reasonable pace. And like, if you get hit, so be it. And I started crossing crosswalks in a much more relaxed manner. And I haven't stopped, right? That was something that I did for a month, and then it just integrated into my life. Kevin says, might be too meta, but do you think setting micro goals is just a band-aid to the broader feeling of unsatisfaction? What's stopping you from no longer being satisfied with your micro goals? Yeah, no, I think this is a good level of meta. I think that I think jumping back to the previous conversation about how different strategies like work in different scenarios, right? That like earliest due date doesn't work for like your hobbies. And I think that micro goals for me are not gonna like make me a better person, right? They are not going to like if I have some big thing that like actually I need to sort of fix in my life, that's not gonna be like I do it for 1 month, one and done. Like I'm a good person now, or whatever. And I think there are some things that like are bigger, deeper, like human tasks of fostering meaning and like learning how to be connected with other people. And I am not yet qualified to tell you how to do that, or to even talk about how I do that, because I'm working on it. But to the topic, or for the goal of like wanting my life to have variety in it, and I would say that as best as I can tell, sort of so far being a human, that like wanting to try new things and wanting to see more of the world is like probably a good way to live. Like probably not like damaging or like a cover up, at least for me, right? And so this way of saying I'm just going to do this thing for a month and try it out, it's like a good way to sort of do more exploration. I think in a lot of ways it's tied to this question of like exploring and exploiting, that this is a way of pushing myself towards more exploration, when it's easier just kind of sit at home. So I think that would be my response. Well, thank you, man. That is very sweet of you to say. But yeah, no, there's much to think about for sure. I think one analogy that I come back to on this kind of topic is, or I guess a comparison of analogies is, one, the idea of juggling, right? The idea that you have certain things, you want to do it all, right? And the question is, do you have to, or the model is you have to juggle 3 balls, right? Like your work and your personal life and your social life. And then if you want to pick up a hobby, that's like another ball you have to start juggling, right? And then if you want to be like a more sort of experienced person or do more cool things, you have to learn how to juggle 5 balls, and then you need to learn how to juggle 6 balls. And that's like, for me, a stressful analogy to think about wanting to do more things. The juggling analogy kind of ultimately it ends with like you can only juggle so many things. And I think that for me, for micro goals, I think of it more like I am a rubber band, and that if I stretch myself in different ways, over time, my capacity as a rubber band actually increases, and I become sort of a larger person and able to understand more things and try more things. And I don't have to constantly be juggling everything. And I have permission to try something out, and if I want to do something else, to sort of switch gears. But I think that's like a really appropriate amount of meta, and it actually is like, I think a great place to kind of taper off. I have really enjoyed talking about productivity and conversing with y'all. I have really appreciated the questions folks have asked and the comments and other models that people have thrown out there, whether it be lessons from gambling, or the Eisenhower matrix, or the Avalanche method, or the Snowball method. Like all of these things are really neat models to try on. Adam, I'm really proud of you for writing all of your code. That is really, really excellent. Big avalanche there of a long job you checked off your list. Yeah, so I would say I'm opening it now to any further questions or conversations. Or I will say, I think formally this was supposed to be if you're working on an app or a productivity, like a calendar or productivity app, like I am here to help you work on it, right? And if you want to submit it to dev post, that would be radical. And Kevin will build you a website for $400. Oh wait, no, you're saying that costs me $400 on one website. Okay, I will build you a website, Kevin. I will build you a website. Just get me your specification, and I will delete all of the spec after the first 100 words, and I'll just go off of that. Welcome back, Adam, on a different machine. So I'm going to put it out there. Any questions? Any comments? Any feedback for me? Any productivity apps that you're working on? Otherwise, Adam, if you want, I could download StreamYard on my phone and go and tour the hydroponic farm. But I will say, I'll take a moment to say this is the end of the live stream formally. Thank you so much for being here. I've had a great time, and y'all were all delightful to talk about. Okay, yes, I will jump back for the Melon Squad clout. Oh, but then I don't know if this is like a universal MLH thing, or a universal StreamYard thing, but we have to get the code from Slack. I could do it. I could get it on my phone. Maybe next time. I don't know. I like leaving people on a cliffhanger. If you're not familiar, y'all, go check out melon.bluehighgang.lol. Boom. Semantics are the best. Semantics are my favorite. In another life, I study linguistics. Let's see. We still don't have an about section, but let's look at the squad. Obviously, you got Adam and Blue High, which is now how I believe I pronounce that. You got Jacqueline, you got Steven, you got Ryan, of course. Now I'm just going to scroll down to see me. Hey, it's me. And I'm apparently going to live stream cooking. I think I'm going to live stream making a macaron because that's something that I'm qualified to do. Uh-oh, we got some lacking photos. We got Will. I don't really talk to Will that much, the other Will Russell, but I'm just constantly hearing stories of other people like attacking him. Like apparently Jacqueline got his name legally changed. I don't remember what he got it changed to. I don't know. All right, fam. I think if we don't have anything else that we're going to talk about, Dongle Boy. Oh, did I skip over Dongle Boy? Wait, Dongle Boy. Is that... Oh, Dongle Boy as well. Okay. Wait, why am I Dongle Boy? Why is that? Oh, not me, Will, the other Will. Oh, that's amazing. Y'all were just answering the question. Y'all, that took me 12 years. That's phenomenal. Gosh, I aspire to that level of tomfoolery. All right, fam. I am going to log off now. But next time, which I actually don't know what the next time will be. I don't think I have another one scheduled, but just tune into all of them. Next time, I will pull you over there with my phone and show off my hydroponic farm. And I'm going to say this, if you are in Seattle or come to Seattle, stop by and I will give you some homemade kombucha and some homegrown arugula. So thank y'all so much for being here. Y'all are the best. Yeah, come back for the clean version of My Neck, My Back, sponsored by Kevin. And happy Tuesday, y'all. Peace and love.